Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Tickers.
Back again
For
today.
another deep dive.
We are going to be dissecting MasterCard's Q4 2024 earnings call.
Yeah,
And
a lot going on.
I think there's a lot to unpack here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just really strong finish to the year.
Yeah, before we even get into
Really impressive
the nitty-gritty,
numbers coming out of MasterCard.
set the stage for us.
Yeah.
So what were the big headline figures?
Net revenue was up 16%.
Okay.
Adjusted net income rose 19%
Oh.
compared to the same period last year.
So
Those are some seriously solid gains.
you're clearly doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is fueling this growth?
It's a mix of factors.
Is it just the usual suspects, or is there something more interesting going on?
I would say it's a mix. The
Okay.
usual suspects.
Okay.
But really, MasterCard's strategic focus on both their traditional payment network and then what they call value-added services.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. What do those value-added services even mean?
So think things like cybersecurity solutions,
Oh, yeah.
data analytics, and loyalty programs.
Okay.
So it's about offering businesses a whole suite of tools
Mhm.
that go beyond simply processing transactions.
So they're moving beyond just being the middleman in a payment and becoming more of a one-stop shop for a business's payment needs.
Exactly, and that diversification seems to be paying off.
Literally.
Literally.
But let's not forget their bread and butter,
Yeah.
the payment network itself.
Right.
They're seeing strong growth there, too, with global transaction volume up 12% year over year.
Yep, and I think one of the most impressive things
Okay.
about these results
Healthy mix of old and new,
is that the growth is coming from
driving their success.
everywhere.
Okay, so it's not just concentrated in certain areas.
Right. It's not like, oh, we're only doing well in the
They're
U.S.
seeing it across the board.
Or, Europe is really saving us this quarter. It's global. So both the U.S. and international markets are performing really well, with transaction volume increasing 9%
Okay.
and 13% respectively.
So they're not just riding a single wave, they're surfing a global swell.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that brings us to something we always love to dissect here at Talk Tickers.
Yes.
Partnerships.
Big fan of this partnerships.
What kind of deals is MasterCard inking?
So they are securing a ton of new partnerships,
Okay.
which just shows their commitment to staying ahead of the curve. I mean, they're not resting on their laurels at all.
Yeah.
Some key wins in the U.S. include a major expansion with ICBA payments,
Okay.
which gives them access to thousands of community banks.
Wow. Talk about tapping into a huge network.
Yeah,
That's a smart move to reach a wider customer base.
for sure.
Any other notable partnerships worth highlighting?
Oh, tons.
Okay.
Yeah, so Mid-Florida Credit Union,
Okay.
a major player,
Mm-hmm.
just switched their credit and debit portfolios
Wow.
over to MasterCard. Yeah. And then they also renewed a key partnership with the Direct Express program, which is one of the largest social benefit card programs in the world,
Oh,
reaching over 3 million Americans.
those are some impressive wins.
Yep,
Sounds like they're playing both offense and defense,
I like that.
attracting new partners while solidifying existing relationships.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And it's not just a domestic game.
No, it's not.
Give us the global highlights. What international partnerships stood out to you?
Yeah, so they just locked in an exclusive debit deal
Okay.
with Saudi National Bank,
Okay.
which is huge.
Big market.
A huge win in a key market. And then they've also renewed and strengthened their partnership with Nubank,
Mhm.
which is obviously a major fintech player in Latin America.
So they're not just playing in the big leagues.
Right,
They're expanding into new and emerging markets as well.
right. And then on top of that, they're deepening their relationships with established global players too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they extended their partnership with Banco Santander in the UK. Okay.
And renewed a massive global credit card agreement with HSBC covering over 20 countries.
Wow.
So, I mean,
It sounds like MasterCard is building a truly global network,
yeah.
connecting with partners of all sizes
Mhm.
in all corners of the world.
I think that's a great way to put it.
But with all these partnerships and initiatives, it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What's their overall growth strategy?
Right.
Where are they focusing their efforts?
So they've outlined a three-pronged approach.
Okay.
One is consumer payments,
Okay.
2 is commercial payments,
Okay.
and 3 is services and solutions.
All right. I'm always up for a three-pronged approach.
Sounds good.
Let's dive into these three prongs, starting with consumer payments.
Mhm.
What's the strategy there?
So they're laser focused on capitalizing on the shift away from cash and checks.
Okay.
Remember that $11 trillion
Oh,
market we
Yeah.
discussed earlier?
the pie.
That's their target.
They're working to make MasterCard the most widely accepted payment network,
Okay.
reimagine the checkout experience,
Mm-hmm.
and even open up what are called closed-loop systems.
Closed-loop systems.
Yeah.
That sounds intriguing, but also a little technical.
Yeah.
Break it down for us. What does that even mean?
So think about like a gift card
Okay.
that's only valid at a specific store.
Okay.
That's a closed loop.
Gotcha.
MasterCard wants to break down those walls
Okay.
and connect those systems, allowing users of local payment platforms,
Mhm.
like those popular in Sweden
Okay.
or Latin America,
Okay.
to use their preferred methods globally.
Okay, so it's about expanding accessibility
Yeah.
and making payments seamless,
Exactly.
regardless of where you are or how you prefer to pay.
That's it.
Okay, so a lot of focus on expanding their reach.
Yep.
And making MasterCard the go-to payment solution for everyday consumers.
Uh-huh.
But what about the business side?
Yes.
What's happening in the commercial payment space?
So this is a massive market. Okay.
With even more potential
Okay.
than consumer payments.
Right.
We're talking $80 trillion globally.
80 trillion.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And MasterCard is making big moves here, particularly in virtual cards.
Okay.
Mhm.
Virtual cards are becoming more and more popular.
They are.
What kind of initiatives are they leading in that area?
So they're partnering with banks like NatWest
Okay.
to offer virtual cards to businesses and their employees.
Okay.
And then they're also working with travel companies like WorldPay and Emirates NBD
Mm.
to provide virtual card solutions to their customers.
Okay, so they're not just focused on big corporations, but also catering to the needs of smaller businesses and individual employees.
Exactly.
Got it.
And they're also applying their virtual card expertise to other verticals
Okay.
like trade and logistics,
Okay.
partnering with companies to digitize payments in those spaces.
It sounds like they're leaving no stone unturned.
Right.
Really pushing to make MasterCard the preferred payment solution across a wide range of industries. Uh-huh.
But we haven't talked about that third prong
Yep.
of their growth strategy.
Yeah.
Services and solutions.
Services and solutions.
What's happening there?
So this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
And it's a market that's ripe for disruption.
Okay. Color me intrigued.
$165 billion market.
Wow.
MasterCard is really just scratching the surface.
Okay. What kind of services are they offering and who are they targeting?
Yeah. So they're developing a whole suite of new services
Okay.
aimed at customer acquisition,
Okay.
market insights,
Mm.
subscription management,
Okay.
threat identification.
Okay.
They're also partnering with big names like Stripe
Okay.
to bring fraud solutions to millions of users.
Cybersecurity is a huge concern these days, especially with online payments.
Yeah.
Are they doing anything specific to address that?
They are. So they just acquired
Right.
Reported Future,
Okay.
which is the world's largest threat intelligence company.
Oh, wow.
So this is a major move.
Acquiring a whole company is a pretty bold statement.
It is.
Sounds like they're really serious about making security a priority.
They are. And it's not just about protecting themselves.
Mhm.
It's about protecting their partners and customers as well,
Okay.
which builds trust
Yeah.
and strengthens their position in the market.
So they're going beyond just processing payments and becoming more of a trusted advisor, a partner businesses can rely on to navigate the complex world of digital commerce.
Precisely. And they're not limiting themselves to traditional banking partners.
Okay.
They're forging new relationships with companies like DoorDash,
Interesting.
Sony PlayStation, and Hilton, expanding their reach and influence into new sectors.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a smart move. It allows them to diversify their revenue streams
Mm-hmm.
and tap into new markets,
Mm-hmm.
making them less reliant on traditional financial institutions.
You got it. They're thinking outside the box.
Okay.
And positioning themselves as a leader in the broader world of digital commerce, not just payments.
Okay, so they're killing it with traditional payments, expanding into new services, forging partnerships left and right.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the elephant in the room.
All right.
Crypto.
What about it?
Is MasterCard just dipping their toes in the water, or are they taking the plunge?
I think they're taking it seriously,
Okay,
but they're approaching it with a balanced and measured strategy.
so they're not just blindly jumping on the bandwagon.
Right. I mean,
Okay, that's refreshing to hear.
they're not just, kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Yeah.
seeing what sticks.
What's their approach?
They're working with both traditional financial institutions and crypto players,
Okay,
like Crypto.com and MetaMask,
okay.
enabling consumers to buy crypto with their cards
Mm.
and spend their crypto balances anywhere MasterCard is accepted.
So they're making it easier for people to use crypto in the real world?
Yeah.
bridging the gap between the traditional financial system
Right.
and the world of digital currencies.
Exactly. But they're also looking beyond just buying and selling.
Okay.
They believe blockchain technology has huge potential to revolutionize the financial system, but it needs sound governance, interoperability, and real-world use cases to succeed.
Okay, and that's where their multi-token network, or MTN, comes in.
You got it.
Okay.
This is their solution to bring trust and efficiency
Okay.
to the blockchain world.
So they're not just dabbling, they're actively building the infrastructure
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
for the future of blockchain-based finance.
And they're attracting some big names to the party.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, so they just partnered with Connexus,
Okay.
which is JP Morgan's blockchain unit,
Okay.
to use MTN as a payment settlement solution for cross-border B2B payments.
Oh, wow.
This could be a game changer.
Okay, that's huge. It sounds like MasterCard is really putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
When it comes to blockchain technology, they're not just talking about it, they're actually building solutions and partnering with major players to make it happen.
Absolutely. They're betting on the long-term potential of blockchain. Yeah.
And positioning themselves to be a leader in this space.
Okay, so they're crushing it in traditional payments, expanding into new services, forging innovative partnerships, and making bold moves in the world of crypto.
Yeah, I think they're firing on all cylinders.
What's not to love about MasterCard?
Well, I mean, no company is perfect.
Okay.
So they do have some challenges.
Okay. I'm on the edge of my seat. What potential bumps in the road are they facing?
They seem relatively minor compared to their strengths.
Okay.
I think, probably the biggest one that people are talking about is the potential impact of Capital One
Oh, yeah.
shifting some of their debit volume.
Yeah, that's been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah, to the Discover network.
How significant of a threat is this to MasterCard?
So I think it's definitely something to watch,
Okay.
but I don't think it's an existential crisis.
Okay.
MasterCard is a massive company with a very diverse revenue stream.
Okay. So they're not too worried.
I think they're aware of the challenge,
Okay.
and they're actively working to mitigate
Right.
any potential losses.
Yeah.
But overall, they remain optimistic
Okay.
about their future prospects.
All right. So they're aware of the risks, but confident in their ability to navigate them.
Yeah,
That's the kind of attitude we like to see.
absolutely.
But before we get too carried away
Right.
with their successes,
Yep.
let's take a closer look
Good idea.
at their financials.
All right.
What can you tell us about their revenue streams and expenses?
Yeah, so their operating expenses did increase by 15% in Q4,
Okay.
but that includes a 1% bump from acquisitions.
Okay, so if you factor out those one-time acquisition costs,
Right.
their underlying expenses are growing at a more reasonable pace.
Exactly. And a lot of that spending is going toward supporting their strategic initiatives.
Makes sense.
It's like expanding into new markets
Mhm.
and developing those innovative solutions.
You got to spend money to make money.
Right.
Okay, so they're generating tons of revenue, keeping expenses in check, and investing heavily in future growth.
It seems like
What's not to love? I mean, they have their challenges.
Yeah.
We already touched on the potential impact of the Capital One deal,
Yeah,
and then there's foreign exchange headwinds that
Yeah.
they're facing.
of course.
But those are relatively minor concerns in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
MasterCard is a well-managed,
Mhm.
highly profitable company
Right.
with a bright future ahead of it.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
They're a leader in the payment space.
Yep.
And they're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And that's why they're such a fascinating company to follow. They're not just reacting to change, they're driving it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've dissected MasterCard's Q4 earnings report,
Yep.
analyzed their growth strategy, and explored their ventures into the crypto world.
Right.
But there's one last piece of the puzzle we need to discuss:
Okay, what's that?
their outlook for 2025.
Ah, the crystal ball moment.
What do they see on the horizon? So they're expecting net revenue growth in the high end of low double digits to low teens,
Okay.
excluding acquisitions.
So continued growth,
Continued growth.
but maybe a slight slowdown
Yeah.
compared to 2024.
A slight slowdown is understandable, especially given the macroeconomic uncertainties and the competitive landscape.
Right, and they're factoring in those headwinds that we discussed.
Yeah.
The foreign exchange fluctuations and the potential impact of that Capital One deal.
Yeah. But overall, they seem optimistic about the year ahead.
They do.
Okay.
They believe the fundamentals of their business are strong, and they're confident in their ability to navigate any challenges that come their way.
They've earned that confidence. They've consistently outperformed expectations and proven they can adapt to a rapidly evolving market.
Exactly. And that's why I'm bullish on MasterCard's long-term prospect.
Me too. They're a company that's always innovating.
Yeah.
Always pushing the envelope.
Showing no signs of slowing down.
All right, before we move on to part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll go even deeper into MasterCard's ambitious MasterCard 2030 initiative.
All right.
Any other key takeaways from this earnings call that stood out to you?
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me was their discussion of what they call the MasterCard One credential.
Okay.
And it's all about giving consumers more control over how they want to pay.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so imagine this.
Huh?
You're checking out online.
Yep.
And instead of fumbling for your wallet or typing in different card numbers, you just select your preferred payment method.
Okay.
Whether it's credit, debit, prepaid, or even a buy now, pay later option.
Okay.
All within your banking app.
That sounds incredibly convenient.
Right.
So it's streamlining the whole checkout experience.
Exactly. It's about choice and simplicity for the consumer.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. Merchants don't have to do anything different to accept it.
Okay.
It all happens through their existing systems.
Oh, wow. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
For both sides.
I think so.
MasterCard is really thinking about how to improve the entire payment experience.
Yeah.
Not just their piece of the pie.
I think that's a great point, and that kind of forward-thinking approach is really evident in another initiative we touched on earlier.
Okay.
MasterCard 2030.
You're right. We did mention it briefly.
Yeah.
But I think it deserves a deeper dive.
Yeah.
For those who might have missed it.
For sure.
Remind us what MasterCard 2030 is all about.
So essentially, MasterCard is aiming to make manual card entry a thing of the past by the year 2030.
Wow, okay.
They're betting big on tokenization and biometrics to create a faster, more secure online experience.
So in a nutshell, they want to eliminate the need for passwords and card numbers altogether.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is. It's a very ambitious goal.
Are they on track to achieve that?
Well, they've already made significant progress.
Yeah.
They're processing billions of tokenized transactions every month.
Okay, so they're not just talking about it, they're actually doing it. But I'll admit, I'm a little fuzzy on the whole tokenization thing.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory on how that works?
So think of it like this. Instead of using your real card number online, which is vulnerable to hacking, you use a unique temporary token that's linked to your account.
Okay.
So even if someone intercepts the token, it's useless to them because it doesn't contain your actual card information.
Gotcha. So it's like giving the store a decoy credit card number.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
To protect my real information.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned biometrics.
Right.
How does that fit into the picture?
So imagine combining that tokenization with fingerprint scanning or facial recognition. You wouldn't even need to remember a password. Just a quick scan and boom, payment confirmed.
All right, now I'm starting to get excited.
Yeah.
No more frantic password resets or squinting at my credit card to make sure I typed in the numbers correctly. This sounds like a major step towards a future where online payments are both secure and incredibly convenient.
I think so.
Okay. And, you know, it addresses a major pain point for both consumers and businesses.
Yeah.
MasterCard mentioned that around 25% of online shopping carts are abandoned because checkout is too slow or complicated.
Wow, that's a crazy stat.
It is.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a huge opportunity here to streamline the process and reduce those abandoned carts.
Yeah, I mean, time is money, right?
Absolutely.
And with security breaches and online fraud becoming increasingly common, that added layer of protection provided by tokenization and biometrics is a huge selling point.
So it's a win for consumers,
a
win for businesses, and a win for MasterCard.
And a win for MasterCard. Everybody wins.
So it sounds like they're really onto something here.
Yeah.
But with such a bold vision,
for sure,
I'm curious, how are investors reacting to all this?
Yeah.
Are they buying into the hype, or are they taking a more cautious approach?
Well, their stock price jumped over 3% after the earnings call.
Okay.
So I'd say investors are pleased.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid bump.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. It seems like Wall Street is confident in their long-term growth strategy, including these more ambitious initiatives like MasterCard 2030.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's not forget the nuts and bolts of their business.
Yes.
We've talked about their revenue growth. But what about their underlying performance metrics?
Right.
What's driving those impressive numbers?
So one key metric to look at
Okay.
is their switched transactions,
Okay.
which basically means every time a MasterCard is used for a purchase,
Gotcha.
they saw a solid 11% year-over-year growth in Q4.
So people are swiping and tapping their MasterCards more than ever.
It seems like it.
Where's that growth coming from? Is it online, in-store, or a bit of both?
It's both.
Okay.
They're seeing strong growth in both card-present transactions, which are the ones you make in physical stores,
Right.
and card-not-present transactions, which are typically online purchases.
So they're not just winning in one arena.
Right.
They're dominating across the board.
I think it's safe to say that.
Any particular trends driving that growth?
Yeah, so one major trend is the increasing popularity of contactless payments.
Okay.
In fact, contactless now accounts for a whopping 72% of all in-person switched purchase transactions.
Wow, that's incredible. People are really embracing the tap and go lifestyle.
It's just so much faster
It is.
and easier than fumbling with cash
Or even swiping a card.
or even swiping a card.
Yeah, exactly.
And that shift towards contactless is a major tailwind for MasterCard.
For sure. For sure. But it's not just about how people are paying.
Right.
It's also about where their revenue is coming from.
Very.
Okay, let's break down those revenue streams.
Right.
Where are they making their money?
So their core business, the payment network revenue, which comes from transaction fees and assessments, increased by a healthy 15% in Q4.
That makes sense considering the growth in transactions we just discussed.
Right.
But they're not just a one-trick pony, are they?
No, they're not.
They've been talking a lot about diversifying their revenue streams.
And that diversification is definitely evident in the impressive growth of their value-added services and solutions revenue,
Okay.
which jumped by an even more impressive 17% in Q4.
Okay, that's a significant increase. It sounds like their strategy of expanding beyond just transaction fees is really paying off.
Yeah, it gives them multiple levers to pull.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if one area slows down, they've got other engines driving their growth.
It's the classic don't put all your eggs in one basket strategy.
Exactly.
And it seems to be working well for them.
It really does.
But of course, revenue is only half the story.
Right.
What about their expenses?
Right.
Are they keeping costs under control? Or are they letting things get out of hand?
So their operating expenses did increase,
Okay.
but a good chunk of that was due to acquisitions,
Okay.
which are obviously one-time costs if you strip those out.
Yeah.
Their underlying expenses are growing at a pretty reasonable rate.
So they're investing in their future,
Right.
but they're doing it strategically and without breaking the bank.
Yeah, I mean, they're being disciplined.
Okay, that's encouraging to hear. But let's be honest, no company is perfect.
No, they're not.
We've talked about MasterCard's strengths,
Mm-hmm.
but what about their weaknesses?
Yeah.
Are there any potential risks or challenges that investors should be aware of?
I mean, we've already discussed the potential impact of the Capital One deal and the foreign exchange headwinds they're facing.
Yeah, right. Those are definitely factors to consider.
Right.
But overall, it doesn't sound like there are any major red flags waving in the wind.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be navigating those challenges pretty effectively
Okay,
so far.
exactly. MasterCard is a well-managed, highly profitable company with a clear vision for the future.
Yeah, they really seem to have a good grasp of where the market's headed.
I'm inclined to agree they're a leader in their industry.
Yeah.
They're constantly innovating, and they're adapting to the changing landscape.
Absolutely.
But speaking of the future, we can't wrap up this deep dive without discussing their outlook for 2025.
Right.
What are they projecting, and are they feeling optimistic?
So they're projecting net revenue growth in the high end of low double digits to low teens,
Okay.
excluding acquisitions.
So continued growth, but perhaps a slight slowdown compared to the previous year.
Yeah, which is understandable
Yeah.
given, you know, the macroeconomic uncertainties
Right.
and the competitive landscape.
Yeah. But it sounds like they're still expecting healthy growth overall.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
And they seem confident in their ability to navigate any challenges that come their way.
They've consistently exceeded expectations in the past,
Yeah,
so they have a track record of delivering.
for sure.
Okay, that's reassuring to hear. It sounds like they're not just resting on their laurels, but actively looking for ways to stay ahead of the curve.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. They're investing in innovation, forging new partnerships, and expanding into new markets. They're not just adapting to change, they're driving it. Yep.
Well said.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today. We've explored MasterCard's strong financial performance,
have.
their strategic initiatives, their bold vision for the future of payments, and even their foray into the world of crypto.
It's been a busy hour.
But before we move on to our This Is Not Financial Advice segment,
Yes.
where we'll cook up a crazy trade idea
Oh, yeah.
based on all this information.
Love these segments.
Is there anything else you think our listeners should know about MasterCard?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway is that MasterCard is much more than just a credit card company.
Okay.
They're a global technology and payments powerhouse.
Yeah.
And they're playing a leading role
Okay.
in shaping the future of commerce.
I couldn't agree more. They're a company worth watching, and they're definitely going to be making headlines
Yeah,
for years to come.
I agree.
All right, buckle up, everyone. It's time for the fun part of our show.
Yes.
The part where we throw caution to the wind and let our imaginations run wild. Are you ready to brainstorm a crazy, outrageous, but somehow still plausible trade idea?
I'm always up for a challenge. Let's do it.
Okay, here at Talk Tickers, we like to keep things interesting.
For sure.
So let's think outside the box.
All right.
We've spent the last hour or so praising MasterCard, highlighting their strengths and their seemingly unstoppable growth.
Right.
But what if?
What if we embrace the chaos
Okay.
and bet against them?
Wait, are you suggesting we short MasterCard?
I am.
The company we just spent all this time hyping up?
Yeah, I know it sounds crazy,
It does.
but hear me out.
Okay,
Their stock price is riding high right now.
Okay.
All this good news.
it is.
What if we capitalize on that exuberance and bet on a little stumble?
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Okay.
What would make you think that a company as seemingly bulletproof as MasterCard could falter?
So remember that Capital One deal we talked about?
Yeah.
Them potentially shifting some debit volume to Discover?
Yeah, but that seemed like a relatively minor issue. Nothing to lose sleep over.
Exactly. But what if it's a sign of things to come?
Oh,
What if other big partners
Yeah.
start to get antsy about MasterCard's fees
Mm.
and look for alternatives?
Okay. That's an interesting thought. It's one thing to lose a small partner,
Right.
but if a few big fish jump ship,
Yeah,
that could definitely put a dent in their growth trajectory.
I think so.
And while their diversification strategy is smart, it also exposes them to potential risks in multiple sectors.
Right.
What if a global recession hits
Yeah.
and consumer spending dries up?
Right. What if a major security breach undermines confidence in their systems?
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
You're not saying MasterCard is doomed,
No?
but you're acknowledging that there are potential vulnerabilities
There are always vulnerabilities.
that could derail their success, however unlikely.
Yeah, and the beauty of options is that we can capitalize on those what-if scenarios without betting the farm.
So you're thinking we buy some long-dated put options on MasterCard, giving ourselves time for these hypothetical scenarios to play out.
Exactly. We're not betting on them failing tomorrow,
Okay,
but we're buying ourselves a chance to profit if things go south even a little bit.
okay. It's a risky play, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
But as they say, high risk, high reward.
That's the game we play.
And wouldn't it be ironic if after singing MasterCard's praises for an hour, we ended up making a killing by betting against them?
That would be pretty funny.
Talk about a contrarian play.
Yeah, for sure.
But remember, folks,
Disclaimer time.
this is pure speculation, not financial advice.
This is definitely not.
Don't bet the farm on our crazy ideas. Always do your own research
Right.
and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Words to live by.
On that note of caution, I think it's time to wrap up this episode of Talk Tickers.
All right.
We've covered a lot of ground today, dissecting MasterCard's earnings call, analyzing their strategies, and even brainstorming a wild trade idea.
Yeah, this has been a fun one.
But the conversation doesn't have to end here.
No, it doesn't.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on MasterCard, their future prospects, and maybe even your own crazy trade ideas.
Yeah. Jump into the comments.
Join us on TalkTickers.com.
Subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to our channel.
Let us know what you think.
And let us know what you think.
We love hearing from you guys.
We'll be back next time with another earnings call teardown. Until then, happy investing, everyone.
See you next time.
Okay, so we've established that shorting MasterCard might be a bold contrarian move.
Yeah.
So let's flesh this out a bit. What kind of timeline are we looking at for this hypothetical trade?
So we're not talking about a quick flip here. This is a long game. We'd want to buy those put options with an expiration date at least a year or two out, maybe even longer.
So we're essentially betting on some unforeseen event, some major disruption that could knock MasterCard off its pedestal and send the stock price tumbling.
Yeah. Think black swan events.
Okay.
A massive data breach that erodes consumer trust, a global economic meltdown that crushes consumer spending, or maybe some revolutionary new technology that renders traditional payment networks obsolete.
Okay, you're painting a pretty bleak picture here.
I know.
But I have to admit, it's a thought-provoking exercise in a world where disruption is the new normal. Even giants like MasterCard aren't immune to potential risks.
Right, and that's what makes this trade so intriguing. It's a low probability, high reward scenario.
Yeah.
The odds of these events happening are slim, but if they do, the potential payoff could be huge.
So we're essentially buying ourselves a lottery ticket, hoping to get lucky with a major MasterCard stumble. But even if those black swan events don't materialize, there's still a chance we could profit, right?
Yeah, that's right. Even a minor hiccup, a slight slowdown in their growth, or a negative news cycle could be enough to send the stock price down, giving our put options some value.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal of this contrarian play. But let's be realistic. What are the chances that MasterCard actually crashes and burns?
Admittedly, the odds are pretty slim. They're a well-managed company with a dominant market position and a track record of success.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this a speculative trade. We're acknowledging the risk while also recognizing the potential reward.
And that's what makes the market so fascinating, right?
That's right.
It's all about assessing risk, calculating probabilities, and making educated guesses about the future.
And sometimes it's fun to throw caution to the wind and explore those what-if scenarios.
Right.
Even if they're a bit out there.
Okay, so let's say purely hypothetically that someone was crazy enough to follow our advice and buy these MasterCard puts.
Okay.
What kind of advice would you give them? What should they be watching for?
First and foremost, do your own research. Don't blindly follow our crazy ideas.
Yeah, sound advice.
We're just spitballing here.
Don't bet the farm on anything you hear on a podcast,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to investing.
Exactly. But if you are considering this trade,
Yeah.
I would say keep a close eye on those potential vulnerabilities we discussed.
Okay.
Partner relationships.
Yeah.
Security breaches, global economic trends, and any signs of disruption in the payments industry.
And remember, options are a leveraged investment, which means you can amplify both your gains and your losses. So be careful out there, folks.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Always know your risk tolerance and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Well, on that note of caution, I think it's time to wrap up this episode of Talk Tickers. We had a blast exploring MasterCard's world, analyzing their impressive performance, and even brainstorming a slightly crazy, but potentially lucrative trade idea.
A lot of fun.
But the conversation doesn't have to end here.
No, it doesn't.
We want to hear your thoughts. Head over to talktickers.com, subscribe to our channel, and let us know what you think about MasterCard, their future prospects, and maybe even your own contrarian trade ideas.
Yeah, jump into the comments. Let us know what you're thinking.
We'll be back next time with another earnings call teardown. Until then, happy investing, everyone.
See you next time.